if you have all these different ways of losing nitrogen, does AGROTAIN have products that can address each of those areas?
Yes, we do. We're real fortunate. We have of course, we have the AGROTAIN Ultra, which is our primary product looking at volatility. And then we have two super products. One called AGROTAIN Plus that has a nitrification inhibitor and a urease inhibitor, and it's used in liquid fertilizers that have urea, like solution 28 or 32. And then we have a granular product called Super U, and that's where the dual inhibitors are made within the urea prill itself.
So then when you're working with farmers, you have all three of those products. How do you work out a good program for them for what they need?
Well, you got to look at what their management needs are. If volatility is an issue, then the only thing I would recommend would be the AGROTAIN Ultra, the urease inhibitor. If we're looking at losses from wet soils and leaching, then I would come back and say you really need to either look at AGROTAIN Plus or at the Super U. And remember this, the products that we sell are specific to urea or urea-containing fertilizers, and they are not specific to any crop. You can use our products as long as you're using urea or urea-containing fertilizers, nitrogen, on any crop.
So corn or wheat?
Wheat, other parts of the world, sugarcane, coffee, tomatoes, lettuce, you name it.
As long as you're using urea?
As long as you're using urea or a urea-containing fertilizer, like a UAN solution, a urea ammonium nitrate, then yes.
I've got a feeling there may be some questions about all this from our audience a little bit later on. We look forward to getting to those. But I want to come back to Dr. Fred Below from the University of Illinois and talk more about his research and what we talked about, the 7 wonders of corn, the 7 wonders of the corn yield world. I'm going to get back to this, trying to get to 300 bushel corn. We're a lot of interest in this, especially with the demands for food now and a growing global population, and we know that there were limited number of acres, so we're always trying to produce more on those acres. So 300 bushel corn, and of course with the commodity prices as they are, this always gets people's attention. So let's take a look at another clip here about Dr. Below's research as we take a look at some of the differences in the plots that he's been in where the fertilizer package, including AGROTAIN, was used. Let's look.
Here you can see an example of where the nitrogen wasn't lost by weather. In this case, it was prevented from loss with an application of Super U. Notice the plant's decidedly larger, greener, better hit. There's a larger ear on each of these plants. So now, by preventing that loss of nitrogen from too much rainfall, we actually can realize the benefit of that nitrogen application in a higher yield. So we're looking at a pretty well developed ear here. Notice we got 18 kernels around, good fill all the way out to the tip. This is a plant that had plenty of nitrogen during this critical period of ear development.
So you look right at home out there in the field. You never get lost out there or anything, do you?
Not usually.
So let's get back to, you can't control the weather, so you try to control what you can control. In this case, we're talking about nitrogen loss. Let's talk about the impact of AGROTAIN.
So of course, the AGROTAIN, and in our case, Super Urea, that would contain AGROTAIN and AGROTAIN Plus. This prevents the weather-induced nitrogen loss. And as you can see in the video, and right at the top of our high-yield package, the first thing that you have to do is you have to make sure that there's plenty of nitrogen available throughout the critical period to fill as many grains as possible and to keep those leaves active throughout the season. So that's where technologies like AGROTAIN and AGROTAIN Plus that prevent weather-induced nitrogen losses play a major role in setting the foundation for a high-yield package.
Is 300 bushel corn a matter of when and not if?
Well, I think it's an absolute necessity. It's partly driven by population. And the reason that we need to grow 300 bushels is in 40 years to feed the population of the world at the level we have today, we need to double the production of all grains, including corn. If the U.S. average corn yield is somewhere over 150 bushels per acre now, 300 is what we're going to need in the future to feed the growing population.
And is the key in nutrient management, in preventing loss of nitrogen. All these are factors that all have to be addressed to get to that 300 bushels?
Certainly, if you have nitrogen loss, then that prevents some of the other wonders from fully expressing themselves. What we are trying to do is develop a high yield package of management factors that we know individually can have a positive impact on crop yield. And then when we combine those practices together in a package, then we get a synergistic positive effect and get a bigger impact from that management than we would alone. If you think about increasing the population of the best genetics, then what we clearly can't suffer any nitrogen loss to maximize yield under those conditions.
I want to point out, give you a website that you can get more of this information. If you go to increasedyields.com, see more of what Dr. Below is talking about.